was talking with Greg Train yesterday. And you can complain about something or you can embrace. This is one of the big things that I kind of learned from you. And this is like when you look at your own situation compared to other, past situations that are way worse, right? So one, you start with, okay, your situation isn't that bad. That's what you start with. Then you go on to, okay, my situation, these are small, teeny tiny challenges that all you have to do is approach them in this way of like embracing it. You know how anytime you're feeling frustrated about your situation or whatever, right? And it really, when you put it in perspective, these are small challenges that you just got to overcome. You take it on as, it's like, yeah, you want to put more work on my plate at work.
Because I can handle it.
Because I can handle it. And I'll do it the best and watch me work,
That is good and interesting. When we had Tim Ferriss on here, and when I did Tim Ferriss's interview the first time I was on his podcast, and it's the thing that I talked about when he came on here, like he asked the question sort of saying, hey, how close do you get to the darkness before it consumes you? And I've talked about before, if you stare into the soul of a monster, you have to be careful because you might become a monster.
Yeah.
And so, I think, there's the drugs that she got put on obviously played a role, but she got in this world where all she saw was the bad.
Yeah.
And I think that to Tim Ferriss's point where he was saying to me like, hey, how often should I get close to the darkness? How often should I look at that? And, my response was, hey, in order to know the light, you got to know the darkness. But you can absolutely go too far in that direction.
Yeah.
And you can say to yourself, wow, the world is evil and everyone's evil. And underneath the surface, everyone could turn into this Imperial Japanese soldier and commit these atrocities. And that is what you absolutely... And I would say be careful. I don't know if that's the right word. I guess it is the right word, be careful. But to me, what you have to do is you have to balance it. And to me, as an American, there's so much good, right? I think that people generally get jaded to all the good that's out there. And that's why I say, hey, you know what? Look over here at the darkness. But for someone that's stuck in a horrible place, in a horrible situation in life, those folks got to look out and say, wait a second, there's so much good out there. If you take that's clearly, you look at Iris Chang. She is smart and successful and beautiful and well liked and she came up with an amazing family. Her parents adored her, right? She had everything in her life was good, right? And she lost all that. You know what it's like? If you talk to anybody that flies planes, right? Mm-hmm. If you go into a cloud, you lose your orientation. It happens in diving too. Yeah. It happens when you're surfing. If you fall off a big wave and you're getting rolled around, sometimes it can be hard to tell which way is up, right? It can happen. Guys drive their airplanes, they get lost in a cloud, they drive their airplanes into a mountain, or they drive it into the ground because they get disoriented and they lose sight of which way is up, or you're underwater and you lose sight of which way is up. That's what you have to watch out for. You got to be able to say, wait a second, if everything is black around me, okay, stop. Yeah. Let me get oriented. Let me check my control panel. In the water, it's real easy. You got to look for bubbles. Which way are where are the bubbles? The bubbles are going to go up. Mm-hmm. And so when you get trapped in that darkness, these people end up in these situations where everything looks black. Stop. Mm-hmm. You're disoriented. Yeah. You just can't see. You don't know the right direction. It's okay. Figure out where the bubbles are. They're going to go to the surface. And when they get to the surface, there's going to be light. And you're going to be okay. Yeah. But obviously, Iris, she got dragged down and disoriented in the darkness, and she couldn't figure out that she had a husband and a son and a family and money, and she had all these beautiful things in her life.
Yeah, which a lot of times, especially if you go full speed in that direction where you don't know which way is up, so you're going down. Even the good things that come in, even when you get paranoid, something good, and you're like, that's bad.
For instance, she's on a trip in Louisville, going to go do a speech or whatever, and someone's checking her in the hotel. Maybe someone was saying, "Oh, I think that's Iris Chang. I saw her on TV."
Right.
Instead, she's thinking, "Oh, it's some nationalists that are coming to get me."
Yeah.
So yeah, she was absolutely. So that's something that I think, and it's something that for those of us that are not in that situation, how do you pay attention and observe people and make sure that your friends or people you know or people that are in bad situations, how do you make sure that they're getting enough that they know how to orient themselves and get back to the surface and get away from all that horribleness?
When you approach things, and I was talking to Greg, that's kind of what and this just reminded me of it. When you approach things like that, you know how like you said, you're going down. If you don't know which way is up, you're going down. A good thing, you're going to look at it, that's a bad thing, reinforcing my whole direction, by the way. So if you approach it in a way where things that even would be frustrating to like an everyday person, if you approach it like good, you know, I'm the one to do this thing, bring the challenge, because the challenges are good. You know, if that's the approach, that'll reinforce that way of thinking.
Yes.
So you will be going, you know, that, and really when you explore darkness, that's not to embrace the darkness and be dark. Like I said, don't become the that's basically you're trying to avoid ignorance. That's what you're doing. Yeah. Because you got no darkness.
And it's a contrast. It's a contrast. Exactly. So you can see, okay, guess what? This and for this case, I mean, obviously, I pray I never have to read anything as heinous as that again ever on this show.
Yeah, me too.
But that happened.
Yeah,
right. That happened. Yeah, that happened. We should not. You shouldn't go through life and not realize that happened.
Yeah,
that happened to that human beings did that to other human beings. As horrible as it is. Yeah. You need to realize that is a part of our human history. So that way you can say, you recognize and say, okay, this can happen and we need to watch out for it. And so look out for your friends, keep them knowing that keep them knowing which direction they're heading in. And when you see someone going sideways, bring them, grab them.
Especially with this is kind of it's specific to this story, but the drugs, you know, when you take medication, because that's a big one, man. It can mess up your even like how you said when you get off the drugs,
right?
You know, because these are all chemical things in your brain made for certain things,
for sure.
Know? So when that part goes sideways, you can't like reason necessarily with someone. You know, they can't reason with, you can't reason with yourself, you know, stuff that would seem obvious. Hey, if I, you know, walk off this cliff, it's obvious that's bad. It doesn't really work that way if like your chemicals are off.
Totally.
You know? So yeah, you kind of gotta, you know, like look out for somebody if you can see that happening.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's very interesting. The mind is so incredibly durable, but at the same time, it's just totally fragile, and some little change to the composition or to the chemicals that are in, or to the thought patterns that are in, you know, can be really drastic changes on a person.
Yeah. You ever have a real bad flu and a fever, and then you're trying to go to sleep? And then
yes, I have.
You know, and it's almost like a mix between dreaming, hallucinating, and like because man, it's like your thoughts are all jumbled up.
Okay, you want me to tell you an echo story right now?
Yes.
This will be a stupid echo story. So brace yourself.
Awesome.
So
story.
I was like 23 years old or something, and I was doing the dishes. Speaking of doing the dishes, I was doing the dishes, and I turned on the water. And I didn't see what was happening, but this little stream, a tiny little stream of water had broken through the pipe at some point in the handle, and it started to land on my hand. Well, I didn't know that it was water, because it must have been like a similar temperature to what my body was at the time. And so I see this, and it looks for a quarter of a second, it looks like my hand is blistering. It's just, and it's spreading so rapidly. And for a quarter of a second, I thought to myself, I'm being attacked by chemical warfare, and I'm going to die in the next half a second. I'm dead. I think we were doing some chemical warfare training or whatever. And so at that moment, for about a half a second, I thought I'm about to die. And it only lasted about, then I realized it was water, and I said, oh, cool. Let me finish the dishes. But my point is that mentally, what if, a different situation, I could get locked into that mode. And when you see Iris going, hey, these people are coming after me. Yeah. If you get mentally locked in that mode and you start seeing things that are that you start imposing or overlaying your reality over actual reality, you start augmenting reality yourself. That gets really, really scary.
Yeah. Like when you think someone's mad at you. You ever read that? You think someone's mad at you. So you're looking for all the little cues, Dang, is this person mad at me or are they not? And normal everyday stuff,
Why didn't she text me back quickly?
Yeah,
it took her 5 minutes.
I know. Usually she puts a smiley face. No smiley face this time.
She hates you.
Yeah, she's mad. I know she's mad. Something's wrong. But yeah, so yeah, if you have, meanwhile they're like, well, I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's interesting.